Two people can move to the Alabama Gulf Coast for the exact same reason. They both want sunshine. They both want to be close to the beach. They both want that coastal lifestyle. But one of them ends up choosing Foley and the other ends up choosing Gulf Shores. And even though these two places are close to each other, their day-to-day life can feel completely different. One person may want more space, more everyday convenience, and a more residential lifestyle. The other may want to be closer to the water, closer to the action, and feel like the beach is part of their daily routine. And that's why comparing Foley and Gulf Shores is so very important, because this is not just about which city is better, it's about which one fits the way you actually want to live. So in this video, I'm going to break down the real differences between Foley and Gulf Shores, Alabama, the lifestyle, the housing, the cost, the traffic, the beach access, and what kind of buyer each area might be a better fit for. And by the end, you should have a much clearer idea of which one makes more sense for you. But first, if this is your first time on the channel, I'm so very glad you're here. I'm Miranda Baldridge with Advantage Real Estate, your local go-to realtor and community connector right here in Baldwin County, Alabama. I help people relocate to Foley, Gulf Shores, Orange Beach, Robertsdale, and all the surrounding areas. And one of the biggest things I help buyers figure out is not just what home they want to buy, but which area actually fits their lifestyle. Because living in Foley is very different from living in Gulf Shores. And choosing the right one can make a huge difference in your day-to-day experience after you move. So if you're thinking about moving to the Alabama Gulf Coast, make sure you subscribe to the channel, because I share videos about what it's really like living here and what you should know before making the move. And if you ever have any questions about homes, neighborhoods, or relocating to the area, feel free to reach out anytime. All right, let's compare Foley and Gulf Shores. The easiest way to understand the difference between Foley and Gulf Shores is this. Foley feels more like everyday residential living near the coast. Gulf Shores feels more like beach-centered living on the coast. And that one difference affects almost everything else. It affects your housing options. It affects your daily routine. It affects how much tourism you feel. It affects how close you are to the water. It affects your budget. And it affects what your normal week actually looks like. Foley is inland, so it gives you more of a regular day-to-day lifestyle. You have neighborhoods and shopping centers and grocery stores and medical offices and restaurants and the kind of things people use in normal everyday life. It does not feel like you are living in a vacation destination every day. Gulf Shores, on the other hand, is directly tied to the beach. The city is part of Alabama's coastal beach destination, and the official Gulf Shores community profile describes it as being nestled along Alabama's 32 miles of sugar white sand beaches. Their tagline even says it: small town, big beach. So when you live in Gulf Shores, the beach is not just nearby. It is a much bigger part of the identity of the area. That can be amazing if that's what you want, but it also comes with a different pace, different traffic patterns, and a different type of lifestyle compared to Foley. Living in Foley usually feels more practical and residential. This is where a lot of people go when they want to be close to the beach, but they don't necessarily want to live directly in the beach activity. Your normal day in Foley might look like going to the grocery store, running errands, going to appointments, meeting someone for lunch, or driving down to the beach when you feel like it. It's a place where the beach is accessible, but it doesn't control your entire routine. That's a big reason a lot of buyers like Foley. You can still enjoy Gulf Shores and Orange Beach, but when you come home, you're coming back to a more traditional residential environment. Foley also has a lot of everyday convenience. Again, you have shopping and restaurants and medical services and grocery stores and well-known retail areas like Tanger Outlets, which is located on South McKenzie Street, which is also known as Highway 59, and it serves visitors from Gulf Shores and Orange Beach and all the surrounding coastal Gulf communities. So if you are someone who cares about convenience, errands, and being close to daily essentials, Foley can make a lot of sense. It is also important to mention that Foley's been growing. The city of Foley reported that between 2020 and 2022, Foley's population increased by 2,979 people, which was and is the largest numerical increase in Baldwin County during that period. So Foley is not just a quiet little town that never changes. It is growing, and with that growth comes more development, more neighborhoods, more businesses, more people that are all discovering the area. For some buyers, that growth is exciting. For others, it's something they want to understand before moving, because growth can also mean more construction, more traffic in certain areas, and changes over time. Gulf Shores feels different because the beach is much more central to daily life. If you live in Gulf Shores, you are closer to the water, closer to beach access, closer to coastal restaurants, and closer to the areas areas where visitors are spending time. For a lot of people, that's the dream. They want to wake up and feel like they live at the beach. They want to be able to go for a walk by the water, meet friends near the coast, spend more time outdoors, and have that beach town energy around them. Gulf Shores is also tied heavily to tourism and coastal lifestyle. Alabama's official beach tourism site, again, describes the area as offering 32 miles of sugar white sand beaches across Gulf Shores, Orange Beach, and Fort Morgan, along with beaches, outdoor activities, dining, and coastal communities. That's part of what makes Gulf Shores attractive. But it also means the area can feel very different depending on the season. During summer, spring break, holidays, and major events, Gulf Shores can feel much busier. Restaurants are going to be more crowded. Roads are going to move slower. Beach areas can have more people. And if you live here full time, that seasonal rhythm becomes part of your lifestyle. Some residents love that energy. Others prefer to be close enough to visit, but far enough away that they don't feel it every day. That's one of the biggest lifestyle differences between Foley and Gulf Shores. Foley gives you access to the beach. Gulf Shores gives you the beach lifestyle more directly. The housing is another major difference between Foley and Gulf Shores. In Foley, you're usually going to see more traditional residential neighborhoods. You'll find single-family homes, newer construction communities, established neighborhoods, and in many cases, more options if you want more space in a larger yard. This is one of the reasons that Foley attracts buyers who want a more practical setup. They may want a newer home. They may want a garage. They may want more square footage. And they may want a yard. They may want to be in a neighborhood that feels more like a regular residential community. Gulf Shores has single-family homes too, of course, but the housing mix can feel different because you are closer to the beach. You may see more condos, townhomes, vacation-style properties, beach homes, and properties where the value is tied more directly to the location and the proximity to the water. For some buyers, that is exactly what they want. They want a condo near the beach. They want something low maintenance. They want the ability to walk or drive a very short distance to the sand. They want that coastal lifestyle built into the home itself. But for other buyers, Gulf Shores may feel less practical if they're looking for more space, a quieter residential setting, or more home for their budget. So when comparing Foley and Gulf Shores, it's not just about home price. It is about what type of home and lifestyle you're buying into. Foley often gives you more of a residential housing feel. Gulf Shores often gives you more of a coastal housing feel. Cost is another big part of this decision. Generally speaking, Foley is often the more budget-friendly option for people who want to be near the beach without paying as much for immediate beach proximity. You may have more options for single-family homes, newer communities, and residential neighborhoods at different price points. Gulf Shores usually carries more of a coastal premium because you are closer to the water and closer to the beach lifestyle. That does not mean every home in Gulf Shores is expensive, and it does not mean every home in Foley is affordable. There are different price points in both areas. But the reason Gulf Shores can cost more in certain situations is because location matters. Being close to the beach, being in a vacation area, having rental potential in certain properties and areas, or having water access can all affect pricing. Another thing to think about is the full monthly cost. In Gulf Shores, depending on the property, buyers need to pay attention to things like condo fees, HOA fees, insurance, flood zones, maintenance, whether the property is more exposed to coastal conditions. In Foley, you still need to look at insurance, taxes, HOA fees if applicable, and the full monthly picture, but you may not have the same level of coastal specific considerations depending on the property and the location. So the question is not just which one's cheaper. The better question is, what am I getting for the money, and does that match the lifestyle I want? Because if you want beach access and that coastal environment, paying more to be in Gulf Shores may make sense. But if you care more about space, convenience, and a more residential setting, Foley may feel like a better value. Beach access is probably one of the biggest reasons that people compare the two places. If beach access is your number one priority, Gulf Shores is clearly going to have the advantage. You are closer to the water, closer to the public beach access. You are closer to the restaurants and the activities that people associate with the beach lifestyle. If you want the beach to be part of your regular routine, Gulf Shores makes that much easier. You can go more often, you can go with less planning, and depending on where you live, it may feel like the beach is part of your everyday environment. Foley's different. Foley is not on the beach, but for many people, that's completely fine. They like the idea of driving down when they want to go, but they don't need to live right next to it. For some buyers, being 15, 20, or 30 minutes away from the beach still feels close enough, depending on on where they live in Foley and traffic conditions. The important thing is to be honest with yourself. Do you want the beach to be part of your daily life, or do you just want the beach to be easy to reach when you feel like going? If you want it daily, Gulf Shores probably makes more sense. If you want access without living in the middle of the beach environment, Foley may be a better fit. Tourism is another big difference. Gulf Shores is a beach destination, so tourism is part of life there. That brings a lot of benefits, supports restaurants, shops, events, entertainments, and local businesses. It gives the area energy and it makes it feel active, but it also means there are times of the year when things get much busier. If you live in Gulf Shores, you're more likely to feel the seasonal rhythm directly. You may notice more traffic, more visitors, and more activity during peak seasons. Foley feels tourism too, but in a different way, because Foley sits inland and has shopping and restaurants and roads that connect people to the beach. It still gets activity from visitors, but the day-to-day living experience is usually not as beach tourism centered as Gulf Shores. So if you like energy and activity, Gulf Shores may feel exciting. If you prefer a more consistent residential routine, Foley may feel easier to live in full time. Again, neither one is better. It just depends on your personality and your lifestyle. When it comes to everyday errands, Foley often has the advantage. Foley has a lot of the shopping and services people use on a regular basis. Grocery stores, restaurants, medical offices, retail, and daily conveniences are all easier to access from many parts of Foley. That is why a lot of people who live around the area end up going into Foley for errands. Gulf Shores has conveniences too, but the feel's different. Because it is a coastal destination, some parts of Gulf Shores are more focused on beach access, restaurants, lodging, and visitor activity. So depending on where you live, daily errands may feel more affected by seasonal traffic or tourist activity. For someone who wants a practical routine, Foley may feel more convenient. For someone who wants to prioritize the beach lifestyle, Gulf Shores may still be worth the trade-off. This is one of those decisions where you have to ask yourself, what do I want my normal week to feel like? If you want easy errands and a more residential rhythm, Foley may win. If you want the coast to be the center of your lifestyle, Gulf Shores may win. The pace of life is also different between the two. Foley tends to feel more steady and residential. It is growing and there is definitely activity, but it's not as tied to the beach season as Gulf Shores. Your day-to-day life may feel more predictable. Gulf Shores has more of a beach town, island feel rhythm. During peak season, it can feel active and busy. During quieter times, it can feel more relaxed. That seasonal change is part of the lifestyle. Some people love that because it keeps the area interesting. Others prefer not to have their daily routine affected as much by tourism. So if you want a calmer, more everyday environment, Foley may be the better fit. If you want to feel more connected to the beach, the visitors, the restaurants, the coastal activity, Gulf Shores may be a better fit. Foley may be a better fit if you want to be close to the beach, but not directly in the beach environment. It may be better if you want more traditional neighborhoods and more shopping convenience and more home options. May be better if you care about practical day-to-day living and want the beach to be something you can enjoy without having it control your routine. Foley may also make sense if you want more space for your budget or if you're looking for newer construction communities and a more residential lifestyle. So if your priority is convenience, space, value, and everyday comfort, Foley is definitely worth considering. Gulf Shores may be a better fit if being close to the beach is one of your biggest priorities. It may be better if you want the coastal lifestyle to be part of your normal routine, not just something you do on the weekends. It may be better if you like the energy of a beach town, enjoy restaurants and outdoor activities, and you want to feel connected to the water and the tourist activity. It may also be a better fit if you're interested in condos, beach homes, or properties where location near the water is a major part of the value. So if your priority is lifestyle, beach access, and being closer to the action, Gulf Shores may make more sense. So when you compare Foley and Gulf Shores, the answer is not that one is better than the other. They're just different. Foley is more residential, practical, and convenience focused. Gulf Shores is more beach centered, tourism driven, and lifestyle focused. The right choice depends on what you want your daily life to look like. If you want the beach close by, but you still want more of a normal residential routine, Foley's gonna be the better fit. Maybe. If you want to fully lean into the beach lifestyle and be closer to the water, Gulf Shores might be your better option. And if you're not sure, that's okay. It's completely normal. A lot of people have to compare both before they figure out which one feels right. And if you're trying to decide between Foley and Gulf Shores, or you're looking anywhere along the Alabama Gulf Coast, please feel free to reach out. I help people relocate to this area all the time. And I'd love to help you compare the different communities choose and figure out which one fits your lifestyle, budget, and your long-term goals. You can call, text, or email me anytime. All of my contact information is in the description below. And if you found this video helpful, which I hope you did, please make sure that you subscribe to the channel because I share a lot of videos about what it's really like living here along the Alabama Gulf Coast. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next video.